Yo guys, it's JD here again, back for another video. We return now with chapter 76 of the Dragon Ball Super manga titled The Fate of the Saiyans. Before starting, I want to say that I don't make videos on the draft pages and or spoiler leaks, whether they're panels or entire pages, because they're usually taken out of context. Translations may be a little wonky, and it usually always creates division and a lot of like hateful vitriol, before the chapter comes out. And you should always judge a chapter or make an analysis review when the product is fully finished. So I will in the future, I do not make, and I will not make draft page videos or early spoilers until we get the full picture. Um, so the chapter title, The Fate of the Saiyans. Again, this is, there is no coincidence. This is all building up from everything that has led up to the Saiyans interacting with Granolah. Beerus' suggestion to Vegeta when they were training in 68 and 79. Beerus telling Goku, or telling Vegeta that, is it really destiny that the Saiyans are supposed to be destroyed? Vegeta's like, well, yeah, they were assholes, and they got what was coming to them due to their barbaricism and uh, inability to change, right? Because they had fallen from grace due to Yamoshi and the good-hearted Saiyans being destroyed. And then it also relates back to Granolah and his perceptions, his preconceived conceptions of what the Saiyans did. And we know he's missing pieces of the puzzle. We know he's not in the know with everything that happened 40 or 50 years ago, depending on the timeline. But the fate of the Saiyans is essentially this. I think this is the conclusion of the fight, and we kind of see that. So the chapter begins with the last remnants of the Cerulean ruins being destroyed due to the climatic battle between Ultra Ego Vegeta, who did not lose. He did take he sustained a lot of damage from the last chapter, but he's not out. He's still fighting, although he's on the evasive, the defensive, because he ran out of power. He's still in the form, but Granolah is now with a newly awakened red eye. Things aren't looking good for him. So, Vegeta's out, dodging Granolah's attacks. Granolah is faster. He appears to be stronger. We don't know if that's due to the eye, but the point is, he is at his peak. And in terms of destruction, Granolah is superior as of right now. Vegeta is not getting invigorated by Granolah's attacks, meaning his ultra ego is failing. A lot of people in the community are upset with Vegeta's performance and how he's kind of placed behind Goku now, which I'll get into. And a lot of people think that there's character regression with Goku. Well, not as much Goku, but more so Vegeta. And I will tell you guys, there isn't character regression. There is a tactful explanation for why it is not. It looks like it on the surface level when you're reading this, but it's not. When you look at all the in context dialogues, panels, previous character statements, and whatnot from the narration, it's not. And it's actually clear as day in the last couple panels. But a lot of people, again, I think a lot of people are just stuck in their Western idolizations of some of these characters, in particular Vegeta, and so they can't look past the actual source material. They can't look into the source material, which is Eastern philosophy, martial arts, and things like that, especially Taoism, which I'm going to get into. I'm going to get into Taoism in this review. I will make a separate video on Taoism itself, but there's a lot of Taoism in regards to Vegeta's character. Anyways, Granolah is, he teleports behind Vegeta using that teleportation move. It's not a speed feat, it's just he's using that teleportation move from chapter 72 and 74. They don't give a name to it because they haven't revealed the wish. Like, Goku and Vegeta still do not know how Granolah obtained this power, and that is important from the narrative, and I think we will get that next chapter. Vegeta is, he can't do anything against Granolah. Granolah places his foot on Vegeta's head, and Vegeta, tells Granolah, like, the one who decides my fate is me. And that, is proven to be ineffective because Granolah, is still stronger. So Granola's going in for a killing blow, and then here we go, Super Saiyan Blue Goku. It looks like it's Super Saiyan Blue perfected. It could be Super Saiyan Blue plus UI, But unfortunately, this is one of my criticisms of this chapter, is that Toyotaru doesn't make it clear as to whether Goku is incorporating the principles of UI into his Super Saiyan Blue Perfected. Usually when he does that, he has Goku close his eyes, concentrate, or actually deliberately say he's using Ultra Instinct, and that is not the case. The only clue we have that he's using Ultra Instinct is, one, in terms of feet alone, he's able to contend with Granolah, who this is a stronger Granolah. This isn't the clone Granolah that Complete UI faced, or any of the other versions of Goku had faced earlier in the previous chapters. This is full power Granolah, even though he sustained damage. So I think it's Super Saiyan Blue plus UI. Toyotaru just assumes the reader knows that he's utilizing Ultra Instinct, but it's not clear, and I think that is a fair criticism. So Goku shows up, saves Vegeta. Great art, by the way. The panels of Goku, Vegeta, and Granola's faces as Goku comes in to save the day. That's a great panel. That is very Toriyama-esque. Goku shows up. Vegeta wonders how he's up and about, and it's because of Goku's God power, God healing. Goku wants to take over, but Vegeta's like, no, I want to do this alone. People think this is one of the other things that people think is character regression, because it's Vegeta being kind of one dimensional, because this whole situation where they're fighting a new foe, he's more powerful than them both, and that they should then use teamwork, either fusion or literally just fighting together. And people think that it's stupid that at this late in the game, this late in the story, that Vegeta's sticking to this Saiyan pride. That's what Vegeta says, calls it. But the reason why Vegeta is wanting to do this is because Vegeta has a plan. He's not stupid. He's not being completely selfish the way people think he is. He knows Granolah is at his peak, but as we know, with characters who get newly acquired power, their stamina starts to drain. They start to get weaker. They start to make mistakes. And Granolah, as Vegeta already has experience with, Granolah has used. Granolah's his psyche's all over the place, right? He's so possessed and self-absorbed in his vengeance that he doesn't exactly think straight, and Vegeta is exploiting that. Vegeta is using, the art of warfare, Sun Tzu, right? He's using these Chinese texts, these Chinese pamphlets on how to deal with your enemy, whether it's a wartime foe or whatever. Vegeta's using these kinds of attitudes and conceptions to mess with Granolah, as we saw in chapter 74, which was, in my opinion, one of the best chapters so far. Vegeta is still doing that even now. All Vegeta is doing right now is he knows he doesn't have the power right now, so he's trying to wait out the game. He's playing a game of stamina. And, he does tell Goku this later in the chapter. So that's why Vegeta wants to face Granolah. And another reason why he wants to face Granolah is because of the theme of the arc. The theme of the arc is proving yourself, moving past your past, recreating yourself, because, again, this is not just Granolah's arc, this is Vegeta's arc, because Vegeta is learning Hakai, which has now led to Ultra Ego, the Ultra Instinct for Vegeta. And it's based on Buddhist Taoist elements. The Buddhist concept of sunyata, emptying your mind, because in Eastern philosophy, emptiness is the first step along the path to enlightenment, which is very different from the Western point of view, like we live in. And so Granolah is symbolic of not just an old version of Vegeta, but he's symbolic of the thing that Vegeta is currently battling, which is his Saiyan guilt. Right, Granolah is a representation of the Saiyan sins, what they've done, and Vegeta needs to move past that. He needs to let it all go and recreate himself, as Beerus explains. But Vegeta is still struggling with that. That's why Ultra Instinct or Ultra Ego is being ineffective, is because Vegeta is still plagued down by guilt, and he's still a family man. You can't just let go of your family and your friends like that. He says he did, and he used the excuse of a near-death experience from chapter 74 to trickle into Ultra Ego. However, Vegeta is still struggling, as is Granolah. And Granolah is also kind of being taught in a way by Vegeta, the tough love that we saw in 75. And Vegeta wants to continue that, right? This is a very interesting battle because everybody's building on each other. This is a clash of fates. So, Goku counters by saying, like, what about preserving your own life, right? Don't you care about your own life? And this is true. Goku is a lot smarter, a lot more keen than he was in previous battles where the same situation has occurred. But again, as I've explained, Vegeta has a plan. He's not just being stupid. But anyways, Granolah comes in for the same killing blow that he did on MUI Goku and uh, Vegeta in Chapter 74. But Goku can perceive this. Goku can perceive Granolah's, Aikido, pinpointing vitals kind of martial arts way of fighting. And Goku uses a Kai Blast to push Vegeta out of the way, which causes Granolah to only graze Vegeta's left abdomen and avoiding essentially killing Vegeta. Like Vegeta was about to die at that moment. So Vegeta's out cold. Granolah is shocked, and Granolah, inquires why or how Goku was able to do that, and Goku says, I've got a read on your whole targeting on our vitals thing, and it's not going to work anymore. Granolah thinks it's a joke, a bluff. Granolah does that teleporting move, right? And Goku takes the hit, and Granolah, thinking he's taken out Goku again, walks away, but Goku was playing possum. So it looks like it looks like Goku is hardening his vitals. He specifically says that he's shifting his vitals. There's a brief pause, a brief window of opportunity where Goku can kind of brace for impact. He still takes the damage, but it's not as severe or killing as it was before. But this is like almost like a property of UI, and so that's why I think it's blue plus UI. Because again, the whole point of this arc is for Goku to master the utilization of Ultra Instinct while in base or his other Saiyan forms. But you could perfectly argue, and it's perfectly reasonable to say that this is the Super Saiyan Blue perfected, and that's crazy because if it is, then Goku received a big Zenkai, and we are led to believe since the Goku Black arc that they stopped getting Zenkais due to age. So whether that's an inconsistency or whether it's just Goku using Blue Eye, I think it's Blue plus UI. But some people, I think Amish and a few other YouTubers think that it's just Super Saiyan Blue, which is a problem when it comes to power scaling. But this chapter, I wouldn't focus so much on the power scaling because we all know Granolah is still the strongest regardless, and the story has to end with this part of the arc has to end with kind of Granolah not being defeated, because then it would mean that the wish was defeated, which would ruin the tension upcoming with the heaters. But anyways, Granolah, is shocked that Goku can do this, but it says that you're lacking in power, so you're gonna. It's just a game of who can last who, similar to what Vegeta was trying to do. And Goku even acknowledges that this is a problem. Vegeta gets up, wakens up from his little getting knocked out, sees Goku's fighting. He does seem a little perturbed by it. This is Vegeta realizing that Goku kind of has surpassed him, at least right now. But Goku gets one-shotted. Granolah takes a hit, and then, Granolah takes a hit from Goku, and then Granolah kicks and one-shots Blue Goku out of his Super Saiyan Blue or Super Saiyan Blue plus UI. So Granolah is still, this is impressive. Granolah is fighting two Saiyans, or he's been fighting two Saiyans, and he's got no healing, no pause. He has just been in this whole battle constantly, which is impressive. So then Vegeta says he's gonna tag in. And Goku is asking why is he obsessed with this, and like I said, Vegeta has a plan. He knows Granolah is about to hit his limit soon, and that'll be his moment for opportunity. And like I said, from a narrative point of view, this is a battle that Vegeta needs to face because this is part of his This is part of his trial, his crucible, based around Beerus's lessons to fully utilizing and perfecting Ultra Ego. Because it's still room for debate whether Vegeta's Ultra Ego is in a Omen state or whether it will evolve into something like a mastered form. It's still possible, but point is, Vegeta hasn't mastered that form because he's still plagued by guilt due to the sand and the fact that he's such a changed character since his DBZ days that you can't just revert back to your old self, which I'll get into as we get close to the end of the chapter. So Granolah is like making fun of Vegeta, saying like, oh, you're fighting alone, you really are, your mind's worked in mysterious ways. And Vegeta acknowledges that Granolah, his drive for revenge has kind of made him stupid. Like he's self-absorbed that he can't see like what's about to happen, referring to the fact that he's gonna lose energy eventually. And then Vegeta inquires by saying, "You think you survived all this time just to take revenge on us? There's nothing more in your life." You know, because that's the thing is Granolah has been eaten away by this revenge that he can't grow past this moment. Like, what if he kills the Saiyans? What, he's gonna go after Frieza? He kills a Frieza, then what? Like, Granolah has he doesn't have a growth mindset like Vegeta, who, you know, ever since the Buu saga, since his speech about Kakarot being superior, that's when Vegeta started having a growth mindset. And that's the key to improving as a martial artist, from, you know, from Buddhist Taoist kind of perspective. So then this is the cool part. Vegeta uses Ultra Ego, right? Powers up in this cool panel, which props to Toyotaru. It's a great panel. You know, Vegeta says, you know, his power is unbounded, right? And Vegeta pulls out his hand. He clenches his hand into the same pose that Beerus does when he Hakkai'd Zamasu, and the same pose when uh, Goku tried to use the Hakkai on Merge Zamasu. He pulls out his hand, shouts from the Japanese text, the Japanese kanji, it was said to have been Hakkai. The English text does not say that. There's no sound effect. So I don't know if it's a mistake on the English translation team. But Granolah then weaves his hands in a weird kind of signature, and I thought at first he did the same pose he did in chapter 74, because like I said, Granolah, he definitely has something similar to Hakkai. I think it is Hakkai. They just haven't revealed the wish yet. But Granolah does something, and then he offsets the explosion. And we've never seen a character survive that kind of we've never seen a character survive that kind of Hakkai, the nullification, the dust Hakkai, as I call it, right? That Beerus has done. The explosion happens and it destroys Granolah's like outer gloves. So now he has only the one piece of clothing that's under the brown gloves that he has. And then Vegeta gives him no time to rest and then headbutts him. And he doesn't just headbutt him, he headbutts him into the Sigurian city, which we're led to believe has been evacuated. Remember, there's 2 cities. Vegeta kicks him in. This is one of my problems with this chapter, is that Vegeta, like, he doesn't know that this city has been evacuated. Granolah probably does, because he has that eye he can see, because, you know, he was watching Monaito, and he probably saw the cars and stuff that were leaving the city when they were hearing the rumbling. The problem is like, I understand Vegeta's trying to teach Granolah a lesson, like trying to show him that, like, hey, you know, the way you're fighting, being absorbed by revenge and this need to kill the Saiyans and you know, restore honor for your civilians, you're no different than the Saiyans, and you're doing the same vile actions that the Saiyans did, and later, and you know, Vegeta now regrets. But the problem is if they're battle, if there was a stray blast or some debris that landed on, say, a Shigurian that's still in the city, which there are Shigurians in the city, and say one of them died, or you know, a child or a woman or whatever, you know, that's on both of them. That's not just on Granolah, that's on Vegeta. So it's like, it contradicts Vegeta's dialogue from chapter 74 when he says, like, oh, this is great. I'm on a planet where there's no, like, spectators, there's no distractions, there's no one to protect, right? His happy place, right? But that's kind of contradicted, because if the city's occupied, if there's innocent lives all around, then it's like Vegeta shouldn't be in this state where he's, you know, thinking solely on battle, or at least attempting to, because now you're putting other people's lives at jeopardy, which contradicts the original trigger to go into Ultra Ego. So it's a minor criticism. I know, like, the overarching narrative that Toyotaru is trying to suggest, but I just feel like maybe Vegeta, because Granolah, even Granolah, who's possessed by revenge, even says, like, wait, let's change location, because he's aware that there might be people here. And so, like, even Granolah, you know, has enough clarity to realize, hey, this is a bad place to fight. But Granolah quickly takes out Vegeta. He gets on top of his arms, and then at close range blows, like, you know, he does that, his little long range pew pew blast, right? And I think Geekdom had a problem with this scene, because it should have, like, with how strong Granolah is, and he's even stronger than he was in chapter 75, Vegeta should be out, because he's not even at full power, right? But remember, when Kid Buu fought Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, Kid Buu ended up doing a blast after he had, like, strangled him to death almost, and he blasts his face into, like, a crater, and it was, you know, we know Kid Buu was far stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta. And this fight is actually very similar to that, because it's, you know, we know Vegeta's he's outmatched. So that's happened before. So I mean, I understand where Geekdom's coming from, where it's like, you know, because Granola's going in for the kill. Like, Kid Buu was just having fun, but Granolah was going in for the kill, so I can understand that. My guess is because he was in the Ultra Ego state, his body was just so durable that it could tank attacks that would normally be fatal. Um, but again, it's just if anything, it's just a testament to how strong Vegeta has become this arc. So I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, because again, Granolah doesn't really know how to control his power that well. We know he's going for the killing blow, but again, this form is all about like just taking damage and enjoying the battle, the love of combat. So like you can just say from a narrative point of view that Vegeta's new form just gives him an extra durability factor to where things like that would not be fatal. But yeah, the attack does knock Vegeta out cold. Granolah then is exhausted, and then surprisingly, his eye, the second eye that he awakened, goes back to its original form. So, which is interesting because like the pupil had been destroyed, so you thought, oh, he awakened his second eye, right? Like sort of like the Sharingan, and like once you awaken the Sharingan, it's like you can access it at will, you turn it on and off. But I guess Granolah, because he hasn't fully mastered his power, that second eye, which is not what the Ceruleans are known for, I guess he can't maintain it. That's interesting. So this means that Vegeta has pushed Granolah to the edge again. So Granolah sits down next to a window, from the the Shigerian city that they're in, and he sees a family, which causes us to have a flashback, and we see more of the flashback from the early part of the arc trailer. We see Bardock, or we don't see Bardock, but we see Saiyans that could be Bardock's crew, because we know that Bardock's crew has been drawn by Toritaru. And then we see Kid Granolah. He's running into a church. His mother is now revealed, and of course, people are using Rule 34, and they're trying to, that's been a moment of debate, which it's just kind of stupid. It's like, I mean, out of all the things to like talk about, that's not a substantive thing, but it's whatever. So Granolah goes into the arms of his mom. The others help him get away so where he can get to his mom, reunite. But then we hear steps, and we don't know who it is. Is it Bardock? Is it another Saiyan? Is it Frieza? Is it the Heaters? We don't know. So Granolah is shocked, and then Vegeta gets up and says, like, your grudges against us Saiyans are well deserved. How could I object to you destroying me here and now? However, by eradicating the Saiyans, aren't you just repeating history? And this is important because it shows that Vegeta is still kind of guilty, right? But he's also trying to teach Granolah, like, hey, you're going to end up just like me. You're just going to be a broken and beaten guy because you've had to commit atrocities to counteract the atrocities that happened to you. You need to move beyond that. Let it all go. Um, and Granolah doesn't take it well. He says, you people took everything from us, and I'll never move past that. And the thing with Vegeta is, like, he tried to tell Granolah that not all Saiyans are bad, but, like, again, some of Vegeta's actions are contrary to what he's trying to suggest, which makes it harder for Granolah to move beyond that and to forgive or even come to a conclusion that maybe he should listen to Goku and Vegeta and Oatmeal when Oatmeal was trying to reason with him. So Granolah uses a Ki Blast to push to push Vegeta out of the city. Vegeta is basically about to be destroyed, right? And then Granolah then decides, he's going to go into his final resolve. He's going to burn away his life force. Whether that means that the wish is contingent upon, like, he can convert the wish power at the cost of his life. It could just be like a weird translation. I think it's just him saying, like, I'm going to put everything on the line to kill you. And Granolah summons a bit of power. Every bit of power he has, he does a cool little gunslinger pose. Fires a blast that, like, at first I thought it was like a Hakai blast, because, there is a possibility that Granolah has Hakai. It could just be a really powerful blast, but this thing is going to take out Granolah and Vegeta, which is crazy. Vegeta and Granolah are basically about to be kamikaze to death because of Granolah's obsession with revenge. And then this is where the important piece of dialogue comes into play. Vegeta says, apologies, Lord Beerus. I couldn't revert to this callous, unfeeling man I once was. The god destruction power was beyond the scope of a novice like me. This is the piece of dialogue that suggests that Vegeta wasn't just intentionally reverting back to his Majin Vegeta self or his Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga Vegeta. He was trying to use that as a buffer. He was trying to use it as a starting point based on what Beerus' teaching was, which was to, let go of everything, empty your mind, and think of nothing but destruction. Sunyata, Buddhist Taoist concept based on emptiness. But Vegeta, because he's such a changed man due to Goku, the effect Goku has had on him, the effect that Earthling, martial artists, and the way that Goku and the Turtle School and all these different entities that Vegeta has been a part of since his, inclusion into the Dragon Team, the Z Fighters. This all has had such a change on Vegeta that he can't even, like, even if he wanted to, he can't revert back to that old self, at least completely. And so he acknowledges that, and it's not like, so Vegeta is still like the Vegeta that, was still developing, searching for masters like Whis and Beerus and the Yard Rats, and learning from other people, which is something the old Vegeta would never do. Like, Vegeta's not a power-obsessed guy anymore. He's willing to learn from others because he doesn't have all that power. He realizes that there's room for growth because he has a growth mindset. And so, like, but Vegeta's like in a state where he's like, he's okay. He's accepted his fate. He thinks Granola's right. The fate of the Saiyans is to be destroyed. Goku arrives and, is trying to prevent them both from dying, and then he sees Oatmeal's ship. Oatmeal's ship has Monito in the ship, and Monito sees Goku and recognizes him as who we know is probably Bardock. And so they arrive. Vegeta is about to be killed along with Granolah, and then Granolah is distracted by Monito. Monito tries to tell Granolah that he has it all wrong, that there's a mistake. Seemingly, it seems Monito left out some stuff and even lied to Granolah about the Saiyans. Granolah is just wants to end it. He's being traumatized and tormented by his feelings for revenge, that it's made him go crazy. Goku then uses this opportunity to knock him aside, canceling out the blast. And Vegeta just says, Vegeta's definitely in a state of like zen, where he's just letting everything go, doesn't care what's about to happen. But Monito reveals that there is one Saiyan who was not deserving of his vengeance. And that Saiyan is, there was a Saiyan who saved them, whether that's Granolah and his mom or just Granolah and Monito, but that Saiyan's name was Bardock. And it ends there. Vegeta's look is surprised, Goku's look is surprised, and we're left, waiting for a flashback. Now, as far as the character regression that people keep saying that Vegeta has reverted back to, again, Vegeta, like, what this whole thing is about is the lens that you're supposed to look at when you're looking at Goku and Vegeta's character is a synthesis, a hybrid of Buddhism, Taoism, Shintoism, and Confucianism. Mainly Buddhism and Taoism, because they're intrinsically linked, and they built upon each other, from a historical point of view. That is the philosophy, that is the cultural lens of which you're supposed to be really looking at Dragon Ball, because that's the audience that it's intended for. It's not really intended from us. Of course, it's outsourced internationally, but that is the philosophy of Dragon Ball. That is the philosophy of these characters and the character archetypes and the tribals and tribulations that they go through. And so, if you're not familiar on this stuff, Taoism is a Chinese philosophy based around the Tao. The Tao is the way. It's a road, a path, a method, a blueprint for how to live one's life. The most important of these concepts is the continuity between nature and human beings and the interaction between them. The rhythm of constant flux, because in Taoism, like, this whole, like, eternal and changing entity that we call the Tao, or you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want, the universe, it's in a state of constant flux, and it's cyclic. It's constantly repeating and transforming. And three, it's it's based around the worship of ancestors, heaven, the divine nature of, like, freedom, sovereignty, spontaneity, and all these concepts. And Confucianism, it's more of a humanist-centered philosophy, that espouses the flourishing society as the best good. It's a little bit of a contradictory take, but they're influenced on each other. But in Taoism, the whole point is to free yourself from attachments, free yourself from what you've learned through society and your materialistic pursuits of things, and to focus on just the natural state. And the natural state is tranquility, stillness, balance, being in harmony with the higher forms, the Tao, there's a lot of stuff. And that's why I have to make a separate video on this. But in Vegeta's case, like, Vegeta and Goku are meant to represent a lot of things. And it's really cool because Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego are literally meant to represent the duality of both Goku and Vegeta's character personalities and their shortcomings, like the way Ultra Instinct works. It's based off around Goku's body moving on its own, right? Why is that the case? Because one of Goku's downfalls is that he lets his guard down, right? So the form is supposed to complement that, right? Goku and Vegeta, like these forms, not only represent their character, personalities, and archetypes and shortcomings, they also represent the Taoist substance, the Tao, the yin and yang, right? Ultra Instinct, as I mentioned before in other videos, is based on Mushin no Shin, based on Sunyata, a form of emptiness, because emptying the mind is a path to enlightenment, because, that's how it is in Eastern philosophy, and to achieve sagehood, right? Buddhahood. Goku's progression of obtaining the technique of Ultra Instinct was progression in and of itself. Originally, Goku thought being in a near-death state was the trigger, right? Because that would help him just let go of everything. Because again, Goku is someone who also is attached to things. He has an empty mind. He has a monkey mind that borrows from the character archetype Sun Wukong. But he's still a developing character. He still has not. Even now he has not mastered Ultra Instinct. But ultimately, we know what the trigger is based off what Mira said. It will activate when you resist a jarring shock to your emotions. And what that could be referring to from a Taoist point of view is Wu Wei, effortless action, action without intent. Do nothing, right? Because what do you do when you resist a jarring shock to your emotions? You don't act. You don't have feelings of hate or revenge, right? That's, the catalyst for Goku becoming a Super Saiyan. Krillin was killed, and so he responded with violence, with a heightened state of emotion. Ultra Instinct's the opposite. You don't respond. You do not let those feelings cloud your mind and judgment. That is the key to achieving Ultra Instinct, while also having a pure and empty mind. Vegeta. As for Vegeta, Beerus explains that using the power of a destroyer, you must think on nothing but destruction. But before that, you have to also, empty your mind. And that is the state, that is the progress that Vegeta was in. He had to use the near-death trigger, the same initial trigger that Goku used for Ultra Instinct. In this case, that was when Granolah gave him that killing blow that we thought killed him, but, Vegeta then gives us the happy place speech, right? He used that as a way to revert back to his old DBC self. Here's the problem. Vegeta was never that person. The old DBZ saga Vegeta, that Vegeta is that Vegeta is a character personality that is not his. That is a Vegeta who was written over by Frieza, by the Saiyan patriarch, the Saiyan classism and barbarianism that had caused the decline of the Saiyans since Yamoshi, right? Because Yamoshi was, the original Super Saiyan and, Super Saiyan God, depending on translations and all that, right? But those are the good-hearted Saiyans. Those are meant to represent the Saiyans as they should be, right? They're not a Saiyan. They're not a group of monkeys that just invade planets and destroy things. That's what Frieza and the Empire and the decline of the Saiyans made them out to be. And I think the Bardock flashback is going to clarify that, I think, hopefully. But Vegeta didn't really understand what Beerus meant. It's a misunderstanding. Vegeta isn't meant to revert back to his early self. He was meant to move beyond that, a synthesis into something new. Everything that Vegeta's been doing has been building upon a path for him to follow that would lead into what Ultra Ego is. Even the Yarda training will have some play, I hope, into what Vegeta's new character archetype may progress into. So that's why Ultra Ego was ineffective from a narrative point of view, because Vegeta is still plagued down by the guilt of the Saiyans, by what they did to Granolah, as well as the fact that the character he was trying to pretend to be, the Catalyst, it was never him in the first place. He's not in tune with his natural nature, his human Tao. So it was a misunderstanding, because he thought that by reverting back to his old self, that he could then start there and recreate, but that's wrong. This whole old self was just one trigger, and it's not the correct trigger, just like how a near-death experience for Goku was not the true trigger for Ultra Instinct. And so, the God techniques are meant to represent the dualistic monism, right? Monism referring to the branch in ontology, which is a branch in philosophy that is, concerned with the substance of things, right? In science, the monism for science is atomism, right? So in the Chinese, in Chinese philosophy, in Oriental philosophy, when we talk about Taoism, they believe yin and yang aren't just like concepts. There's a substance to them, an eternal, unchanging thing in and of itself. A very deep concept. You know, it's not fair for me to just give it, like, you have to give this a separate video, which I will. But in short, Goku and Vegeta are meant to embody yin and yang. They're meant to embody, you know, destroyers embody yin, chaos, you know, free from attachment, judgment, but intrinsically linked to its opposite tension, yang, which is what the angels and Goku represent. This harmonious, warm, sustenance, growth kind of entity or shape or form. So, you know, human Tao is tranquility, balance, stillness, as I think I've said before, and that it represents Goku in the Earthling way of martial arts, the Turtle School. But Vegeta and the Saiyans, what the Saiyans, pure Saiyans, are meant to represent is they get their D from, or Tao from combat and that sense of, like, where you lose yourself in the state of battle, right? That Saiyan primacy. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and that's why Beerus is trying to say, like, hey, this is something you can master, because you Saiyans are, like, your whole genetic makeup is meant to, like, furnish this kind of mentality. And so, you know, I think a lot of people, when they view Dragon Ball, when they view Goku and Vegeta, they're not looking at this cultural lens that I'm speaking of, this Buddhist, Taoist, Confucius, Shintoist kind of synthesis. That is how you're supposed to view Dragon Ball, in my opinion. You can talk to other people from the East, from East Asian cultures, and I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing, because this is natural to them. This is common sense to them. This, like Journey to the West, which is one of the stories of Dragon Ball, that's like Shakespeare over there. They all read it, they've all read it, they all understand the basic gist of it. The stuff that I'm talking about, you know, this cultivation of self, Ren, right, virtue, you know, human Tao, cosmic yin and yang, all this stuff is common sense to them. It's like the ABCs over there. That's what they're brought up in. That's their cultural, like, history. That's their attitudes about things in anime, manga, entertainment, and other mediums. And we, as Westerns, we're foreign to that because it's not required in school. So, anyways, there's a lot to Dragon Ball. There's a lot to Goku and Vegeta's character, and this chapter, in my opinion, did a good job. It really did a good job with Vegeta's character. It's not regression. On the surface, it looks like it, but again, like, Goku and Vegeta are constantly going to go through cycles because yin and yang are a cyclic phenomena. They're constantly going to be reinventing themselves. Goku will slightly reinvent himself. Vegeta's going to slightly reinvent himself. The cycle is going to repeat. You can criticize that, like, because maybe you want something different than this constant repetition of characters going through similar trials and tribulations, but that's just based off what Taoism and other things are. Now, as far as, like, predictions, I might make a separate video on this, but my worry is I don't want the flashback for Bardock for chapter 77, 78, or however long. I don't want it to be a multi-chapter flashback. One chapter is enough justice, because they're going to talk about Frieza probably. They're going to talk about the heaters, because heaters, remember, they have gas has bad memories. So we're going to learn about that too. Right? I'm sure Granola's mom's not present in the present timeline, so something happened to her right after that flashback. We're going to learn about that. When Naito, remember, he revealed that there were Namekians on planet Cereal besides himself. So we'll find out what happened to those Namekians. We might find out more lore about the Cerulean Dragon Balls. A lot of stuff. So it's going to warrant a whole chapter, in my opinion. But if it's multiple chapters, then that means we may not see the heaters and their wish until, like, the new year, until, like, January. Which I don't want to wait that long. But again, like I said, I will judge, you know, each chapter as it comes out when it's fully out, right? Translations and all of that. But anyways, guys, again, I'm still working on the Goku video, the history of martial arts. I'm just, you know, doing a lot of editing because it's a lot of concepts, a lot of terminology. And I really want to make it nice and coherent for people who may not be knowledgeable or have a rigorous approach to philosophy, whether it's the Western philosophy or Eastern philosophy. Shout out to Jordan Lee. He's done a lot of great stuff. Galactic MJ on Twitter. He has a great Twitter thread on each chapter release. He has a very good understanding. He uses in-text citation or in-text dialogue. I'll link below in the video or in the caption or whatever. But thank you again, guys, and I'll see you again next time. Bye, guys.